welcome everyone to our final Partners in Pain. Well, hopefully not final, but final for this session, Partners in Pain webinar. My name is Kelly Kizlyk. I'm a pharmacist here in Saskatchewan, and I am happy to be your facilitator and moderator for this afternoon. Just a few things before we get started, our usual announcements and information. So as we gather today and before we begin, I do want to share a land acknowledgement and acknowledge that we all are on treaty land. I'm joining you from Saskatchewan, which is Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. We pay our respect to the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our relationship with one another. Just a reminder, I'm continually working on my relationship with in this space, and reminder that June 21st is National Indigenous Peoples Day. So I encourage all of you to find some way of celebrating our the rich Indigenous culture and heritage in Canada. Next, I'm actually going to save the background section. I'm going to chat a little bit more about it when we work through some of the slides. We're going to do a little bit of a review of where we've been and what we've done, and maybe talk a little bit about what's to come through our session today. So we'll talk a little bit more about our background with one of the slides later. And did want to acknowledge, though, our sponsor for today's session, the Chiropractors Association of Saskatchewan. Thank you to the Chiropractors Association of Saskatchewan for their support in this Partners in Pain webinar. And of course, our etiquette, our webinar etiquette, we've been Zooming for a while now, but a few reminders for you all. Please keep yourself muted to minimize background noise. Today's session is a little bit different, so we're hoping that you're willing to unmute yourselves occasionally, share some of your experiences, what you loved about Partners in Pain, some of your personal feedback and reflections on some of our sessions. So absolutely feel free to unmute yourselves, wave your hand, raise your hand, interrupt me, whatever it takes. We do want to keep this as interactive as possible and hear from as many of you as we can. Also happy to see your faces, so feel free to keep your cameras on. If you're having some internet connectivity issues, which you may, it sometimes helps to turn your video off. That way you might have a little bit more capacity for the internet. Like I said, there's lots of opportunity to share thoughts during today's session. So we have a few slides to work through together. But certainly if you have something to share, I would invite you to unmute yourselves. Once again, raise your hand. I might not see it, so certainly just interrupt and share what you would like to share today. So with that, I think we'll get started. Sorry, maybe I'll let you know a little bit about what today is going to look like. Like I said, we're going to talk, review some of our highlights for the first 2/3 of our hour today, and then we have another art presentation from Dayna. So Dayna will be showing a video with some artwork from Dayna. So we have that to look forward to as well. Okay, let's get started. Celine, if you want to start sharing the slides. Perfect, thank you. So this is our highlights from a year of Partners in Pain. And I see that a year of Partners in Pain, and it's a little bit hard to believe that here we are. I'm certainly hoping that this year has had a positive impact on all of you and your pain journey. We'll be sharing with you a review of this past year. And like I said, some of the highlights, some of our personal reflections on Partners in Pain. And more importantly, we do want to hear from you. So hear what Partners in Pain has meant to you. So first, let's take a look back at what we did. Thanks, Celine. Sorry, we'll work on this. So we're going to take you back to March 2021. And this is once again where I wanted to kind of talk about where Partners in Pain started and originated from. So we grew out of a research project called the Improving Pain in Saskatchewan Collaborative Research Project. And from that work came Partners in Pain. Started off as those 3 pilot sessions. So we piloted those sessions in March 2021, back when gas was what, $1.39 a liter. So I'll take you back to that time. And that's how we started the project, with those 3 pilot sessions in the Yorkton area. The feedback from that pilot was so positive that we decided to seek additional funding, and we received that funding from the Community Initiatives Fund grant in mid-2021 for an additional series of webinars. And there you can see the additional webinars that we were able to present. So a total of 20, including today's session, with a really wide range of topics. Once again, when I look at this list, I'm so proud of what we've been able to get through in our webinar series, and it's very exciting. So we can move to the next slide, Celine. So here's a little bit of information about our attendees and the communities that we've reached. So we've had 225 participants attend live, an average of about 23 per session. And we do have our videos on YouTube, and we have had a total of 637 YouTube views, an average of about 49 views over 13 videos that were posted when Celine pulled those numbers. There's a list of the communities that were reached, and I think that's really exciting, right? Is that we do have some reach. So, even as far west as, say, Glassland, this was an exciting list. I see we've listed Tisdale twice, so apparently the home of Brent Butt is an important one. But like I said, I think that list of communities that we've reached is an exciting list. So we can move to the next slide, Celine. We also, as part of this project, have collected some information from our participants to learn more about who's been attending these webinars. And so we've looked at a little bit of the breakdown of our attendees. So you can see primarily women coming to these sessions. Our roles have varied. So we have, once again, probably the majority of our participants have been people with lived experience. So people living with pain, but certainly some good representation from healthcare providers and a wide variety of healthcare providers. We've had pharmacists involved and social workers, physiotherapists, physicians. So I've been really excited about the range of healthcare providers that we've had. And I've also really loved that we've had representation from people that support people living with pain, right? Once again, this has been a way to bring so many people together. And I think it's exciting that we've had several roles involved in these webinars. There's a look at our age group. So 1% of us are under the age of 35. Oh, I'll just finish that one off, Celine. And the majority of us 35 and older. So that's just a quick look at our age demographic. All right, we have been evaluating you. So thank you to everyone that has filled out the evaluations and participated in the polls throughout the sessions. So the evaluation of the education presentation. So once again, recall that we do an education session. We have a session with a person with lived experience, and then we've been doing an activity session. So this is a look at that education presentation. So overall, 86% of people reported improved pain knowledge. A lot of folks intend to use this information in their daily life. So some really good information, education to take with you every day. 78% of people felt better connected. And I feel like this word connection is going to come up several times over the course of the afternoon together. And that's been something that's really important to me with this Partners in Pain work, is the connection that we felt, connecting people living with pain, support people, healthcare providers. So that connection is something that I like that it came out in the evaluation. And 78% of people, participants, received what they hoped for from PIP. So I think that's exciting that we've delivered on what people were hoping to get. So our next slide focuses on those the part of our webinar where we spoke with someone with lived experience and how people, their evaluation of that lived experience when we heard from someone living with pain and their personal story. So 52% could relate to the personal story. And once again, that speaks to the connection, right? And there's so much that comes from that peer connection and relating to someone else's story. 51% were encouraged to try new pain management skills. So learning from each other, right? And trying something new from someone else living with pain. 44% felt motivated in their pain management efforts. 44% felt less alone. And 35% felt encouraged to connect with others. So a little bit about that connection piece again. So this is some of my favorite thing. I love hearing people's feedback, right? Once again, how they felt about it. So more than just the numbers, what were some of the words? How did people describe the Partners in Pain sessions? And so this question was, what did you like best about the session? So the encouragement and interaction of the group of participants, it was fun and felt like a social visit. And I would agree with that. It's nice to come together for an hour every couple of weeks. I like the combination of professional and personal perspective. So a couple of different viewpoints and appreciating those viewpoints. The depth of information and community support. So that speaks to some of the information we've been sharing, and the fact that I'm not alone. So once again, that sense of community and connection that we felt in coming together. And then, well, let's talk about what we liked least about the sessions, because this is all really also important feedback, right? It helps the planning committee members have an idea of what might we want to improve upon for next time around. So what did folks like least about the sessions? I think they could be more often, and then each segment of it could be longer to get more time to learn. So connecting on a little bit more of a regular basis, maybe more frequently. Sometimes it was inconvenient timing. So certainly with very specific times. So hopefully the webinar recordings will help with some of those timing issues. But once again, sometimes watching a recording isn't the same as live and in person. The technology glitches and delayed sound. Ooh, this one spoke to me even today as I was having a few technology glitches. The other thing that people liked least was it always seemed so rushed. And I also related to that one. I think sometimes when we're excited, we have lots to share, that can come across as feeling quite rushed. So jam packing as much as we could into 60 minutes and still preferring face-to-face. So certainly we've had to pivot during the pandemic. And although we've been able to reach a pretty big audience, it has been a virtual interaction. And sometimes that face-to-face is just, it hits differently. All right, what's our next slide there, Celine? So next we thought we would move into some of the highlights. And our planning committee kind of came together and chatted about some of our highlights and what we had taken away from the session. So we thought we would share some of this. Once again, if there's any participants on today that would like to share, I might call on a couple of you to unmute yourselves and share a little bit more about some of your personal experiences with each session. And like I said, anyone that might want to contribute, we would certainly welcome that. So we're going to start with number one. So our first session was Dr. Susan Tupper, and it was our Pain 101. So an introduction really to the basics of chronic pain. And Susan had talked about a research project she had done with young people living with arthritis. She had children track their pain and then looked at how their pain changed throughout the day. And Tracy, one of our planning committee members and a person with lived experience who's also presented during our sessions, her feedback was that she had actually really liked hearing how the difference about how the students in Susan's research project track their pain throughout the day, and that it helped, just being able to see that, how people could understand the comparisons, how pain fluctuates throughout the day, and how the nervous system impacts pain. So those were some standouts for Tracy. Tracy, I don't know if you have anything to add to.
That's really a game changer for me, understanding how the pain cycle works, and how just calming your nervous system down and being able to change your pain and how it either responds or how you respond to it, just by being mindful and being able to influence your nervous system. That to me was brilliant, that I actually could do that. And so I learned a lot about it. I tried different ways, but when I had read or heard about the research project and watching how those students track their pain, and how obviously arthritis doesn't get worse and better during the day. So obviously there was something else that was influencing that pain throughout the day. And then being able to work on that more in depth. And that's just been huge to me. I did need a lot of help. I did have to find people who could teach me how to train myself to manage my nervous system better. But that's been huge for me. And I would really encourage anybody to learn more about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree that connection, hey, between our nervous system and just in the corner of the slide, Susan talking about the biological, the psychological, the social and environmental context, and how so much of that comes together. Totally agree. So hearing more about that was helpful. Thanks for sharing today, Tracy. I'll give anyone else a minute that might want to share a few highlights from the first Pain 101 session. Any other thoughts? Okay, let's talk about our next session. So this was the Managing Stress and Grief with Pain with Susan Gellert, a social worker from Yorkton. And we had some feedback from Michelle, who is part of our planning committee and wasn't able to join us today unless she's hopped on. Michelle, if you are here, just let me know. Michelle had said that she really enjoyed listening to Susan's session about grief and pain. It brought home how we are moving through a life journey that might not have been what we wanted and or planned for. And I totally agree with Michelle. It's that awareness of, yeah, this isn't necessarily what we thought our life would look like, and how it's okay to grieve that. It can teach and show us how to move forward in our lives and cherish what we have, not what we don't. So, focusing on the haves, right, as opposed to the have-nots. Michelle also reflected on how all of the personal stories of pain we have heard have been impactful and show us how every day it is such a journey that people living with pain go through. Absolutely. And hearing more about grief, right, and that grief journey was, I think, definitely something that I learned about too. Something that I also took away. This one I viewed as a recording actually after the fact. And what I really appreciated was, I think I've always thought about grief as just the loss of a loved one, right? I connected it with death. And really, that was, I only ever used that word grief to describe that process. And so for me, I loved that Susan gave us those examples, and you can see that on the slide. Like, there are so many types of losses in life that we grieve. And I really appreciated how she gave us words to understand the process of grief. And something that I've been thinking about since this session, and having conversation with folks living with pain, is that sometimes anger comes out, right? So Susan chat about denial and anger and bargaining and depression and acceptance. And so sometimes it's hard because the anger is what we see. And having that ability to go back and think, the anger is connected to grief. Someone is hurting because of loss, right? I really liked that connection. So I appreciated Susan's words around that. Okay, next session that we're going on to was the mindfulness session, if you want to advance the slide. So this was mindfulness and pain. So, excuse me, April 27th with Dr. Anita Chakravarty. And one of the reflections from our planning committee was just on Anita's presentation and how powerful the mind is, and the use of mindfulness as a strategy to manage pain. And once again, I think we've heard about mindfulness, and I'll just tell you my own personal reflection. I think at first, before I started working in the chronic pain area, I thought, well, mindfulness is, those granola eating folks. And then I've learned about how powerful a tool it is. And I've used it personally in my personal life to really, connect to our bodies, to use our mind to connect to our very physical bodies. The other feedback that we heard about this session was Dr. Chakravarty being an excellent speaker with such a soothing voice. And that also resonated with me too. There's just something about her when she speaks that I think my shoulders drop and I just relax into myself a little bit more. So she's an amazing speaker with a powerful message and a great way of delivering that message. And I think something else about Dr. Chakravarty is that she has the perspective of a healthcare provider and a person with lived experience. And I appreciate that she shares both of those perspectives in her sessions. And you can just recall, Celine included the notes on the bottom of that slide. We can't stop the waves, we can learn to surf. And so you can recall the activity that Dr. Chakravarty kind of walked us through, with being on that body of water and all of a sudden being caught up in a storm. And, rather than having the waves crash over us, observe the waves, connect with those waves, and then learn to surf those waves, right? Learn to surf those waves. So I've thought about that since then because, oh boy, we've lived through some storms, right? And just a different perspective from Dr. Chakravarty's presentation. I'll pause for a minute to see if anyone else has any reflections from mindfulness with Dr. Chakravarty.
I think for me, it relates a lot to back to Pain 101 when I learned about my nervous system, and that when I am on that like high stimulation, I'm getting a migraine, it's okay just to like remember that like, okay, I am experiencing this pain. I can step away from my family and just like be present and like acknowledge almost the pain I'm going through. And that's like a step of like healing for me and stepping out of that pain and saying, okay, it's okay. Like I can get through this. That's just an example from my life that it's been helpful since listening to this session.
Thanks for sharing, Cassie. Yeah, I agree. Hey, just that act of stopping, like paying attention to your present moment, right? And not judging yourself, like not feeling guilty, not feeling bad about it, just judgment free. Yeah. Thanks, Cassie.
I think that was my reflection as well after listening to Dr. Chakravarty, that it was, I just felt a sense of permission, I guess, to not necessarily have things always in order and always online and always going in the right direction, that it's okay to stop. It's okay to take that break, and kind of tying in with what you were saying, Cassie, of not feeling guilty, right, for doing these things that feel restful instead of productive. And knowing that in a way it's producing calmness for my nervous system. But sometimes when you're so busy and you've got so many things on your list of to-dos, that stepping back and just pausing and doing some mindfulness feels wrong at first, but it was good permission from Dr. Chakravarty to remind us of how healthy and helpful and important it is to do that, and to take that break and do what your nervous system needs sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely, Susan. And it's a retraining. Hey, it's a retraining our brain. It takes that effort. And you're right, it's a little bit uncomfortable at first, but yeah, keep up with it, right? Until it feels okay. Okay, then maybe we'll move on to the next highlight. And this one came from our sleep and pain session with Dr. Roshana Bodani. And this one actually really hit me. And this slide in particular, with some of her instructions and then the rationale. And I don't know about any of you, but I am someone that if I'm told to do something, it really helps me to know why, right? I love to hear the rationale behind something. So, and I'm trying to use that with my kids too. I have 2 little kids. So if I tell them to do something, here's the why part. Anyways, I really appreciated the instruction and the rationale. Here's why. And I felt like there were so many practical tips for managing sleep. And that relationship between sleep and pain is an important one, right? And I think sometimes we wonder what comes first. If I sleep better, will it improve my pain? And how can I sleep better if I'm in pain? And, it's a bit of a cycle. And that's what I liked about Dr. Bodani's, is she gave us some really practical tips. Here's some places to start. For me personally, my biggest takeaway was on lowering the temperatures, that they're physiologically better for sleep. So I dropped the thermostat in my house, which I think shocked my husband because I'm the one turning it up. And the difference that it's made in my sleep and my family's sleep. So that was something that I took away from this session. Interested to hear if anyone else has tried any of these tips, or if anyone else has any sleep feedback.
I'll jump in if nobody else wants to. This session I also watched as a recording later on, but it also, for me, was really correlated to when I started taking medical cannabis for my pain management, because sleep was such a huge thing that I struggled with, which was obviously making my pain worse. But when I started taking medical cannabis as an aid to even just help me sleep, just my pain and everything got so much easier and better in my nervous system. down regulated a little bit so I could catch my breath. And I think the thread that I'm seeing, like all these different topics that we're highlighting and talking about, they're also interconnected, which is like just really cool to see as we're doing this great overview here at the end.
Oh, Alexandria, thanks for sharing. I love that perspective. Hey, I've heard Brené Brown say sometimes when you're in the audience, you got to step up to the balcony. And yeah, when you look back at our Partners in Pain sessions, how connected all of this is, right? Pain, sleep, cannabis. We've had sessions on all of those. Thanks for sharing. Any other thoughts from the sleep session with Dr. Bodani?
I also received a lot of help in this area. I self-referred to MAC, and that was one of the first places that we started with, was helping me get a better night's sleep, and that helped with calming down my nervous system, which then helped with the pain cycle. And so it was huge. The one myth that I had was that you should go to bed at the same time every night. And what I needed to learn was the hardest thing for me to do, but the best thing for me to do was to get up at the same time every day. So learning the rationale and understanding the why of it was really so important, because then the nighttime just happened naturally, but it was the morning that I needed to put the effort into. So I really, really appreciated her education, and then the assistance I received from MAC IOPS to put it into play.
Thanks, Tracy. And we're going to talk a little bit more. I might have a more specific question for you because it's going to come up in a slide, a couple slides down. Yeah, and it's sometimes even just that perspective. I agree with you, where we focus so much on getting to bed, right? And I start thinking, oh gosh, it's 10 o'clock, it's 11 o'clock. Oh, got to get to bed. And, shifting the focus to getting up at the same time every morning, right? Really good information. Okay, any other thoughts on sleep? All right, then we can move to the next slide, Celine. And this highlight came from our trauma and pain session with Erin Beckwell in May. And Michelle shared some feedback about Erin's presentation. And she said that Erin's presentation about trauma and sharing her own personal and professional experiences were wonderful. Took away some techniques that she can use in both personal and professional life, and how trauma and the trauma response can impact pain. And Hillary managed to join today. Hillary, you can take yourself off mute if you'd like to share a little bit as well. Maybe in the meantime, I can share some of what Hillary had shared is that, once again, that connection between trauma and pain. So what Michelle spoke to too, and tying all of this together, both our nervous system reactions. So, we've had a couple of conversations already today about our nervous system and how involved it is in all of this. And that single event-based trauma can be easier to process than trauma from a series of events. So that was some of the other takeaways that Hillary took away from Erin's session on trauma. I have had the opportunity to hear Erin speak a couple of times, and she is fantastic each and every time. I was really excited to hear that she was going to be presenting to Partners in Pain. And I think for me, one of the biggest things is just really redefining trauma again for me once again. It's been interesting for me to reflect back on kind of what I think I knew, what I learned through Partners in Pain, and kind of what I know now, which is still always ever evolving, always growing, always learning. But for me, it was just, I used to just think about trauma as the event, right? And you hear about these traumatic events. And sometimes there's this thought, well, oh, that isn't that traumatic, or that's not so bad. Or I've even heard people say, I don't know why this is bothering me so much. And I love how Erin speaks to this. And it's something that I've thought a lot about, is how trauma is not just the event, it's the experience. And we all experience things so differently. And, there's no way to experience an event, right? So trauma is the event, it's the experience. And then what Erin spoke to, just that absence of love and safety and connection and trust and belonging, and how important that is. And that was a big takeaway for me as a healthcare provider. And I think probably for anyone that is supporting someone living with chronic pain, is how important it is to have that safety and that trust and that connection. So that's been something that I've been thinking about with trauma. I'm not sure, sorry, my participant list is hiding from me right now. If Hillary, if you're on and want to share, or anyone else want to share some thoughts on the trauma session with, excuse me, Erin?
Well, I think it's Kathy. I think Erin illustrated how complex it is, so that it can even be can be the same siblings in one family. And she's spoken to this too. I've listened to her on a couple of occasions, how she experienced it differently than her siblings did, and then how it affected her later on in her life. So I think the important, I'm not sure if she said it in this session, pardon me, but I've heard her say before, instead of saying as a healthcare provider, although I'm retired too, Tracy, but instead of saying what happened to you, what's wrong with you, the question is what happened to you. And that's sort of where you start with the assessment, or trying to understand where people are coming from. So that's something I wish I would have learned way early on in my career, that you can have people coming from the same household and have such different perceptions of the experiences there. It really helps individualize how you approach people, and then help them work through their self-management.
Definitely. Thanks for sharing, Kathy. Okay, then maybe we can move on to our next slide, which is around the activities. And these activities really stand out for me when I think back around Partners in Pain. And they've been so exciting to me. They've opened my eyes to some therapies that I wouldn't have thought to necessarily recommend to folks living with chronic pain. And it's been so interesting to learn more about some of these activities that other folks have been using. So excuse me, we'll start off with Ross and his session on photography. And several folks from the planning committee reflected back on Ross's sessions, and how Ross clarified that it was important to note that, photography doesn't get rid of his pain, but it distracts him from his pain for an amount of time. Once again, photography was a passion, that was a tool for him, and really helped him cope and slow down his nervous system. So slow things down. Also with Ross's session, just around the adaptations, the things that he needed to change because of living with chronic pain in order to do his passion for photography. And so, how to pick up a camera living with CRPS, and that he had to make these adaptations in order for him to return to his passion. And Ross discussed different photography techniques, how to make images stand out. I think all of us can even if we're not professional photographers, have our iPhones and snap pictures, but, taking pictures at eye level and the perspective of taking a picture. Michelle said that she loved the photography part from Ross, and she had just been getting into photography, so really cherished those instructions and that content that he gave. And also how powerful some of the experiences, like the picture of the wave, and Ross pushing through his pain to get those pictures. So, the significance of that was something else that Michelle noted. A few other things, the art therapy. I admittedly wasn't sure that I had, I wasn't sure about art therapy, even though I used to work in the health authority and we had art therapy at St. Paul's Hospital. But I was so drawn into Dayna's art. I found it to be an amazing distraction from things that had been impacting my own personal life. And I just appreciated how she incorporated some mind strategies into her art. So her story is so powerful, and I really appreciate how her story came out through her art. Kathy also had some thoughts around Dayna's art therapy, just how fun it is, how much fun we have watching her, participating with her. And Kathy noted that she particularly enjoys the way she ends her sessions, stating that art diverted her thinking away from her pain that day. So her art distracted her from her pain that day. Lots of great feedback on the session with Hillary and gardening. Many folks from our planning committee noted how much we enjoyed that session on gardening. And hopefully some of us are starting to see the fruits of labor for gardening and some of those little seedlings starting to sprout out. Some reflections on the mindfulness session, and just once again having Dr. Chakravarti walk us through some activities and how soothing they are, and introducing us to some new relaxation and exercise options for our mind. And Tracy, you already commented on this too, but some of the tips from Taylor. So she walked us through the activities for the sleep session. And Taylor is a pharmacist at the Mac IOPS that does the cognitive behavior therapy. And she worked through some tools with us. And one of them was the cognitive shuffle. So Tracy, I'm not sure if you have anything else that you wanted to add working through the CBT process.
The cognitive shuffle is so cool. So I could maybe have, it usually happened before I had to go to work. My brain would just start going on overload, and part of it would be, how am I going to manage my pain at work, and how am I going to manage this, and what am I going to do about that? And I knew I had a couple of patients to follow up on, but I needed my brain to just be quiet so I could sleep. And so I used the cognitive shuffle that night. And my nothing word was chair, and I keep that same word all the time. And I have certain letters that, of course, you go through, and so cat is one of them. And when I got to cat, a lot of times I was asleep, and so I never described those cats. But if I got to R and I was on a rooster, I was so mad at that rooster because I'd already gone through all those letters, and I was trying to tell my brain, okay, come on, stop it already. And then I would keep going, and then I'd start again. But then I'd get to that cat the second time around and I'd be asleep. And so I really love those cats. And when I get to those roosters, I'm a little annoyed. But when I get around again and I get to the cats, it works like a charm. And I know other people have tried it and it doesn't work for them. They don't understand how it works for me and why I'm arguing with the rooster at 3 o'clock in the morning. But for me, it works. And I'm so grateful that Taylor taught me how to use that, because it's really, really good for me.
Oh, I love it, Tracy. Thank you. I think I'm going to have to go back and watch that video again and try the cognitive shuffle myself. So I'll be checking out that video after today for sure. Thanks, Tracy. Any other thoughts from our participants today? Anyone want to share some of your personal experiences with activities?
Hi, it's Curtis here. I don't know if you could hear me.
I can hear you, Curtis.
Hey, I've been quiet all these sessions. I found with all these sessions, it's been so great when you're by yourself with the trying to change what you used to do in your life, and then you realize, okay, there's other options out there, and there's all these people and their stories have been so powerful, and all this scientific story, information that we were presented is really, it just gives you a whole different chance at, how am I going to live the rest of my life out here with dealing with chronic pain and getting motivated and doing something. So the art activities and the photography and people dealing, using, like I have to use, medications to help. And it's just been a really good experience. And I didn't want to just talk on each individual one. I wanted to get it out all at once, but it's been very, very enlightening. So I thank everybody for that. And that's all I'm going to say.
Oh, thank you, Curtis. Those are some really powerful words. It was so great to hear your voice. So thank you so much for sharing. Any of other participants today want to share some of their personal experiences? Maybe you want to speak more to some of the education or the activities or some of the personal stories that we've heard. certainly if anyone wants to share some of the things that have helped you manage your pain, advice, words of wisdom, here for all of it, if anyone else has something to share too.
I'll share about my perspectives on Dayna's art. I loved it, and it was so simple. All of her projects it wasn't anything fancy that required any fancy equipment or anything, but it was just kind of things that you could find around the house or with a few supplies that you could get at the dollar store. And she had so much fun with it, and just watching, I thought I would need to do it in order to benefit from it, but just even watching her as she's smearing the paint on the canvas with her fingers, you could almost feel it yourself. And so I just really enjoyed her sessions on art. And again, her attitude and just how, that I think it was the first one where she had written the unhappy words underneath, and then she kind of painted over it and created something that was beautiful and fun and enjoyable. So I really enjoyed that.
I totally agree, Susan. I had been working on a puzzle a couple of weeks ago with my husband. It was a Bob Ross puzzle. I don't know if anyone knows Bob Ross with the curly hair that used to paint the little happy trees. And I thought, Dayna is our Bob Ross. Like, we have Bob Ross in Dayna. So I see your note too, Susan, in the chat, that she wasn't able to make it, and says hello to everyone. All right. Any other reflections or anything?
Sorry to interrupt, Kelly. I just wanted to build on something that Tracy mentioned when she was talking about the sleep cognitive shuffling. Because I'm too OCD, I can't do it, Tracy. I get too hooked on something, and then I'm up all night trying to figure out. And anyhow, but what you said I thought was so important, that some people don't understand it or can't do that. But the beauty of the sessions was that there were so many, it was like a suite of options that people could use or try to self-manage, or to even keep their own personal self under control. And even though I'm not a person who has lived experience, I still need to keep my own personal self under control sometimes. So I think about Laura Millions Cohen. She talked about spoonsful. How many spoonsful do you have? So that's how she visualizes and articulates how she manages. So, and maybe that technique wouldn't work for someone, maybe the cognitive shuffling would, and vice versa. So I think that was the importance of it, was hearing from people with lived experience and what they do, the tips that they use or the strategies they use. I thought that was very powerful, and I learned a lot. And I think Dayna is a very messy person, and I love that about her.
Thanks, Kathy. Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts to share? Thanks to everyone for sharing today. It's been so exciting. Today's a celebratory day. It's a little bit sad to be wrapping up, but I've been really excited about, hearing some of how their takeaways from our Partners in Pain sessions, and what these sessions have done for folks. Okay, so maybe we'll move on to the next slide then, Celine. We've got to save some time for Dayna's art therapy. So here is just a quick summary of where to find our recording. So you can link to our Sask Pain YouTube channel. So Selena's put the link on our slide, or on the Sask Pain website. So all of our webinars are on that. I was checking out the YouTube channel earlier today. So certainly you can go back and watch these sessions again. Like I said, I'm going to go back and check out the cognitive shuffle on the sleep session. So that's where you can find our recordings. Next, wanted to say a thank you. So these are the members of the 2021-2022 Partners in Pain Webinars Planning Committee. And I wanted to give a big shout out to each and every person on this committee for their dedication to this really, really important work. When I look back on the successes of Partners in Pain, it is a testament to what all of these people invested in this, and also all of our participants, what you've all brought to this too. So just wanted to give out a big thank you you to our planning committee. And I did also want to highlight the work of Celine Daniel White. Celine, you have, when I look at this team, there's always someone on the team that is the doer and that just gets things done. And it is Celine. And behind the scenes, she pulls together these presentations and coordinates speakers and helps everyone get onto these sessions. And I don't have an applause track, Celine, but I'm just sending you the biggest shout out and the biggest thank you on behalf of everyone that's participated in these Partners in Pain webinars. So thank you, Celine. And next, we're going to chat a little bit about moving forward. Susan or Kathy, I'm not sure if you want to, in 30 seconds or less, just talk a little bit about what the future of Partners in Pain might look like.
Sure, unless Cassie wants to. Yeah, Cassie, go ahead.
Sure, yeah. So going forward with Partners in Pain, SAS Pain will be taking over. That's a non-for-profit group in Saskatchewan that is focusing on chronic pain, supporting chronic pain research, and promoting education for chronic pain in Saskatchewan. And they will be taking over and applying for a grant through the Community Initiatives Fund, the same grant we got for this past grant. So we'll be applying for that and kind of redesigning Partners in Pain in a way that how I think about it is those maybe cons of the sessions about, okay, it's not always the right time, it's not always long enough. We're hoping to almost solve those in the sense that we're going to be making these sessions almost that these modular sessions that can be accessed online, perhaps through a website. We're still thinking about how we'll be doing that and hoping we will get this funding to go forward with that. And then people or facilitators can take on, let's say, so many sessions that we create and share them to their own groups and in their own facilities at their own paces. So that's the goal. And I'm really looking forward to see where that goes. And hopefully we can get this funding and go forward with a different version, maybe Partners in Pain 2.0.
Awesome. Thanks, Cassie. Next, just wanted to share a few details about the podcast. So Alexandria, if you want to speak to our podcast.
Sure. Thanks, Kelly. So yeah, as Kelly has been explaining, if people are wanting to stay involved with or connected with Partners in Pain now that these sessions are over, we wanted to invite you to check out our podcast if you haven't yet. If you don't know what a podcast is, it's basically like a radio style audio recording or an interview where our team has been speaking to healthcare providers, researchers, and people with lived experience of pain, all about different pain topics. And we've done 15 episodes to date and are still going to be doing more. They are available online where you can download them to a phone or to your computer. You can also find them on our social media channels on YouTube, as Kelly already mentioned, where all the other webinars are going to be. And we are always seeking and welcoming feedback and ideas. So if you visit the SAS Pain website, you can find more information and my direct contact if you would potentially like to be interviewed, or even if you can think of someone who you think would be great and have an interesting pain-related topic or story to share and discuss. So yeah, that's that.
Great. Thanks, Alexandria. Okay, we're going to get going with Dayna's art session. I'm running overtime. What's the session moderated by Kelly that stays on time, right? Here we are. I'm going to quickly offer our thank yous. Once again, our thank you to our sponsor for today's session, the Chiropractors Association of Saskatchewan. Thanks to the Community Initiatives Grant. Big thank you to the Planning Committee again. And most importantly, thank you to each and every one of you who have participated in these sessions. I hope you found these sessions, we hope you found these sessions to be helpful and informative and a way of connecting with each other and with other people living with chronic pain, working in this world. Once again, the connection. Hope you know that you're not alone in your chronic pain journey. There's folks, people, organizations that are there to help you. And so really hope that you've seen that through the work and the webinars at Partners in Pain. Just going to remind you before we roll Dayna's session that the recordings of the webinar are on the SAS Pain website and the YouTube channel. We'll share those with you via email. You'll also be receiving an email with a link to one more evaluation. Please fill that out. We really do value your feedback and use it for planning our future sessions. And stay tuned for more information about where Partners in Pain goes from here. All right, let's end our session today with an art therapy session with Dayna. So Dayna Fesciuc is a 48-year-old artist, writer, and photographer who has been using art therapy as a way to manage her chronic pain. Dayna says art therapy has made a measurable difference in her pain and has been a game changer with helping her get back to her life. So I think it is one of the best ways to end our Partners in Pain sessions is with an art therapy session with Dayna. Her words to end this session are the best words. So with that, here's Dayna's art session.
Hey guys, so we're back doing art therapy, and I'm coming to you today from my studio. It's Dayna, sorry, for anybody that's joining that does not know me. I'm coming to you from my studio as usual for art therapy, and what I've got this time is I'm following up on the segment that you guys had. I'm so sorry I missed last Partners in Pain. I was unable to make watching that session in person on the day of, but I'll watch it when it comes out in the link. However, I do believe it was about gardening and chronic pain, and that aspect I want to kind of follow through on with regard to the art therapy this time around, which is items that you can use outside in your garden or around your yard or just as gifts or whatever in that manner. And what they are is we're doing some painted rocks. Okay, so what we're doing for this is the steps are basic, very, very basic. You go to a landscape store or have someone go pick some up for you, or you can get some larger size decorative rocks from the dollar store. And then depending upon what type you get, if you get the type like this that basically have no finish to them whatsoever and is just a rock, just a basic rock, then this will work to be able to paint on really super easily. If you get it from a landscape store and it has any dirt on it or anything like that, or even in your backyard, you got to watch. You can't just take them randomly from parks or things like that, because you can actually literally get charged a fee, like fined, for taking them from a park or something like that. But we're responsible adults. Let's not do that. You could choose one from your yard if you want, or, you know, that type of surrounding. Or then, like I said, a dollar store, a landscape store. I got mine at a landscape store. I got a bucket full of rocks for like 20, 25 bucks. So that wasn't too bad at all. And they're actually really great shapes. That one I showed you it kind of looks like an Easter egg. You could have done that one for an Easter. This one here kind of looks like a kidney. Not sure what you could potentially do with that one, but we'll figure it out. Maybe a bean. Never know. The one I'm working with today, I'm going to do several. I'm going to show you how to do them, but I'm also going to show you examples of ones I've already painted. But the steps are this. You get them from your store, landscape store. You wash them with a little kitchen scrubby, get all the dirt off them, make sure that they are completely cleaned, and then let them dry for at least 24 hours to make sure that the wetness that has seeped into the stone has come out. Otherwise, you put paint over top and it's not going to stick too terribly well to that. So you want to make sure that it's completely dry. So about 24 hours, let it dry. And then when you go at it, again, we're back to using that same craft paint that I always use when I'm teaching you guys, which is acrylic craft paint, just the crafter's acrylic. This works really well for inside stuff. If you're doing anything outside, the only difference is that you'd have to make is when you look at the bottles of whatever you are using of paint, no matter which crafter's thing you use, just make sure it says for outdoor use or multi-use, and then just make sure that it will be okay outdoors. So the ones that we're doing today are going to be some garden ones, and a couple of other surprises I've got in there. So buy them at a landscape store, wash them, let them dry 24 hours about, then paint them. Just a basic white to start, and then and you can do only half of it if the other part's going to be in the earth or wherever you're going to be placing it, or you can go ahead and paint the whole thing. I tend to paint the whole thing because I'm going to use a saturated color over all of this before we do a design on it. Okay, so that's where we're starting. I will be back in a minute and teach you more. Hey guys, so I'm back. Okay, so I've got some colored ones now. I've got this bright, beautiful green. We're going to use it as part of one of the garden ones, but I'm going to do a design on top of it, so it's not just going to be this color. Then I've got a bright, beautiful orange. Okay, I've got one that is still drying, but it's a beautiful turquoise. I've got one that is going to be beautiful yellow, but this is a thinner paint, so I've got to do another coat. Then I've got one that is a like ultramarine kind of color. It's beautiful. And then I've got a couple others that I've got here that are still drying. The white part of them. So I will be back right away. I just want to show you my colors for this day, and I will grab my Posca paint markers and get to designing. Be right back. Hey guys, okay, so we're back. So I've gone back over off camera, and I've done a second coat of this one, a second coat on this one, and a second coat on this one, and a second coat actually on this guy too. Or where's the camera? There. Second coat on this guy as well, the turquoise. So he's going to be later, but for right now we're just going to work on this one. So I'm just going to do some hand drawing on there. I said that I was going to do ones for the garden, so we're going to stick with, you can assume that this one, if it's going for the garden and it's bright orange, it's going to be carrots for your garden. So we're gonna just draw some lengthy little carrots on here, and hope to God they look like carrots by the time I'm done. And just freehand some carrots on there. Okay, and another one just to be able to have like a couple. Oh, I guess positioning is everything here. This is probably not going to look good if I. Okay. I'm going to make this be a shorty carrot here, because otherwise it's going to look really wrong really fast. I should probably put a third in there because this is looking not too good. I might have to cut the film on this. Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. How about it's one long, one short, and then I will do nope, not a longer. That'll look bad. Here we'll go on this side. We'll go a third on this side like that. There we go. Okay, that's not so bad. That was going to look really wrong really fast there. So now that I've got those on there, I'm just going to get some foliage going up top, and I'm going to put some lines going across. Actually, maybe what I'll do is I'll color them this whole color, and then that'll make them stand out better. There we go. That looks good. Okay. So from a potential really bad looking picture there, we're going to pull these out as actual carrots. Oh my goodness, that was going wrong fast. All right then, so there's one shorty little carrot there. I'll put the lines on them to delineate the like the little cracks and splits and things that carrots tend to have on them. So we'll do this, and then we're going to add some foliage. So basically I'm just using the Posca markers here over these rocks that I told you we were going to do these particular colors for. So we're going to do 2 for the garden today, and then we're going to do a couple that are more like a gifty type one, like a gimmicky gift type one. And then we're going to do, maybe if I've got the time, we will do one more after that. So just real quick, color in your carrots, and then you're going to add your detailing on them. And there we go. So there's your carrots in there. Okay. And you've got the full color on there. Okay, so then your next thing that you're going to do after that is you are going to do your foliage. So I'm going to pick a really dark green for the foliage of my carrots. And I'm just going to, I always use my hand as a tester. These are just water-based, so they come off easy. So I just test on my hand like a palette. And then up here, I'm just going to do the leafy type, greeny type things that are carrots off the top here, just to show that it's a carrot row. And then these are perfect markers for your garden. So you could just put them down. They're just going to be near your rows of whatever you've done for your garden. And then that'll show, you know, that you've got carrot row there, peas there, that type of thing. You can pretty much guess this green one is likely going to be peas or beans. I guess it could be either of those. And then I've got another orange here, that this orange is like a glitter orange. And so it's not so much to make the carrots glitter, but I do think it'll stand out, there we go, as like a border, because it's a darker, deeper orange. And that'll work to be able to get those little, you know, those little creases that carrots tend to have on them. There. Okay, so just freehand that on there real quick. And then do the same thing here. And just make those, we could go over this, you know how I always like to use like a thick black marker to make them pop. I guess I could do that, go over them with that. That'd probably make them stand out even better. I might try that on one just to see what it looks like. But I wanted them to stand out a little bit in their orange colorness first. See if that would be enough. The rock itself is nice and bright, so that's enough of a pop, I think. I shouldn't necessarily have to do the black in there. That looks pretty good. And then I'm just tapping, when I go off camera like that, I'm just tapping it on the side here. If you can't see it on camera, just to get the the paint marker to be able to restart itself if it slows down or the flow goes out of it. There's my carrots, and then after that I'm going to just go back and with maybe with black just to be able to make it be, or no, yeah, I'll go with black, and I'll just do a thing of carrots down here. So we know that that is in fact the carrots that we're going to have of a row. Hope to God I've spelled that right. There we go. So you got your carrots for your garden, and this is just going to go with the head of the row. Okay, and it's perfect. It's a cute little rock, and it's, as long as you make sure that these are the outside paints, you're fine. If you don't have outside paints and all you've got is inside paints, you can still salvage this project by getting a spray adhesive, or not an adhesive, but a spray fixative that you can get. Sorry, not a fixative either. A spray, what the heck is it called? A varnish that goes over top that will cover this. And even if it's indoor paints, if it's an outdoor like shellac that can go over top, you can get that at any craft store, even a Michael's, that type of thing. And then that way your project is still safe for the outside. So there's the carrots. And moving quickly on, we'll go right to our peas. And again, we're just going to do a quick rendering of peas. Here I'm just hope to God I can get this right again. Just do maybe just one long boat of pea with its opening, and then I'll put the peas in there. I'll color this a deeper color on the outside like it tends to be. Then on the inside I'll pop the peas in there and give them a different color running along there. And so it's as simple as that, you guys. It's really super easy. They're fun to do. You could do this with, again, kids, grandkids, or then just even, like I said, on your own here. I'm having fun in my studio. It's a bright day out. If my legs are working later, I'll get outside and get some fresh air and put these out by our garden space that we're working on. So I think if I just do oh, that might be too light. Yeah, that's too light. Okay, so I'll go back to this guy, do my peas popping in there, and then I will do the background a different color. It's easy enough to delineate that these are in fact a set of peas here. There we go. Happy little peas in a pod. Okay, so now that I got that drawn on there, I could stick with this green even and do it like a viney thing coming off of it. Okay. And then with the light color behind it, it makes those pop. If I really wanted to make them stand out even more, I could use, again, that black to just go around them, around the actual peas, just to make them pop. Although I don't know if that makes it look like they're rotting. Hopefully not. In their little pea pod. There you go. And then, simple enough, you can write it up top or down below. I'll go up top and just write peas. And there's my pea row. Super easy. So there's 2 down. So super easy, you can see. Not like a long time project. It's very simple to be able to do. So there's 2. Hold on, I'm going to pull one more. I just want to make sure it's dry. Hey guys, I'm back. So now I've done this one here that basically I just put on yellow on yellow. It's a different shade, but it's kind of hard to see this. I'll bring it right close to the camera. So basically it says "You Are My Sunshine" on there in red, and just a little happy smiley rock. Now this could be, you could use this for holding down napkins on a table if you're out at a picnic type of thing. You could put this just outside on a picnic table, just as a nice little thing. You could put it out in your garden, you know, just whatever is a nice little thing to have sit around your home. And this one I'm doing here is a mandolin or a mandala. So here, I'll just bring it close. This is my idea of what one could look like, but it doesn't really matter the design. It's whatever you guys choose to do yourselves that you could make this work and be pretty, and whatever design you choose will be lovely. And I'm just freehanding this. It's just dots and lines basically going around it. So it's not like it's a very difficult thing to do. But it really pops on this periwinkle. So again, this is one, when it's done, you could set this out in a garden next to your other stones, and it's just a nice little amount of colorful things for your garden to do. The last one I wanted to talk to you guys about is one that I'm not sure is going to work out, but I'm hopeful. And I might have to show you at another time because it's taking too long to dry. And that is, do you remember the one that I showed you at the beginning of the video that was like shaped like a bean? I thought like a kidney bean. I was going to do beans with it. Instead, I went a bumblebee, if you could see him. He's so cute, or he's starting to be. So I'm going to finish off the lines on him. I'm going to do little wings up here, little feet on the bottom, 2 big googly eyes, and then I'm going to put be happy across him. And he'll be a really cute one too. This one's going to take me a little longer because the markers are taking a little long to dry in the stripes, and I want to make sure the stripes are great. So just to give you ideas though of what you can do like a ladybug on one. There's all sorts of things you could do that make it fun. So these are the ones that are the ones I did today. And I'm really hoping that you guys can see that you can do all sorts of things that make it be like a color pop. Super easy to do. And again, the steps were super easy. Get your rocks from a landscape place or dollar store. Make sure that they're clean. Use a kitchen scrubby on them. Make sure that they're dry. 24-hour dry time. Paint them a basic white to be able to be like a primer, and then pop your colors on that are your base colors, and then go to town with your markers or paints. You can sit here with a paintbrush doing this and do whatever designs you want that make it be a fun color pop. That's the one that I've got for you this time. I hope you guys like it. I'm going to continue with this one for another minute here, so you can see it's super easy to do. Which just going to do a little shake here. Super easy to do, and we're just going to continue with a little bit of a design here. I'm going to do now triangles going around the outer edge, and then I'll do another line after that, and it's just continuing with that look of like a pop. Oh, I did that one backwards. Oops. Oh well, mistakes were made. Well, that doesn't look too bad. I'll continue with that. 2 up, 2 down, 2 up, 2 down. That'll be the pattern. And yeah, so this is just a fun way that I'm spending my time. And as I'm doing this, I most definitely am not thinking of my paint, which is the whole point. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you have any questions about products or any way to go about doing this, then let me know. But otherwise, keep on painting, keep on smushing. And I hope you guys... if this ends up being the last one I do before summer, I hope you guys have a really great summer. I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for being with me. Bye.
All right. That's a wrap, everyone. Thanks again. Take care.